Many moons ago, in the year 2022, the second richest man became the first, only to be beaten and surpassed by Bernard the underdog Arnault, who with all his glittering gold still looks broke when compared to the man himself, John D. Rockefeller. Now imagine having a wealth so grand that it accounts for 3% of your country's GDP, and in history is only surpassed by Mansa Musa of Mali and Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. After some calculations and adjusting it to inflation, it roughly translates to $440 billion, making Rockefeller the richest human in modern history. Like most people, John Davison Rockefeller was born at a very young age on June 8, 1849 in Richmond, New York. His father William was a self-proclaimed botan physician who traveled around and sold homemade remedies and magic elixirs that by his accounts cured cancer. In reality, he was a con artist known as Devil Bill, who had multiple families and rarely visited John. His mother, on the other hand, was a bipolar opposite, a devoted Baptist who taught John to save and not to waste, as they couldn't rely on Satanic William. In 1855, after completing a bookkeeping course, Rockefeller would get his first job as a bookkeeper for a local Cleveland firm called Hewitt & Tuttle. Here is where he got to experience first-hand negotiation with barge canal owners, ship captains and freight agents. He got especially good at this, which during his 3-year period of work increased his raise from $16 a month to $58. Upon refusing to increase his pay further, Rockefeller quit in 1858 and opened up his own produce business with Morris B. Clark, the profits of which soared during the U.S. Civil War as they supplied the Union Army with supplies. But as every armed conflict eventually ends, so do the profits brought by it, forcing Rockefeller and Clark to seek other markets. In 1859 in Pennsylvania, oil was discovered, and many people rushed on into drilling for it. Rockefeller observed and witnessed many of them going kaput, which prompted him into starting an oil refining business. Oil refining being the process of transforming the crude oil from the ground into marketable products, mainly at the time kerosene, which would be used for lamps. Kerosene also presented itself as a cheaper alternative than to the oil gained from boiling whale skin, a process that itself became too expensive. At the time, other refineries would use only 60% of the crude oil while dumping the other 40% into rivers. Rockefeller's thrifty mindset here came into play, as he would use this waste to fuel his refineries and turn it into various byproducts. In February of 1865, John would buy out the stocks and shares owned by Clark and his brothers, leaving him with the chemist Samuel Andrews. The next year, his brother William would build a refinery in Cleveland, bringing him and Henry Flagler into a partnership and forming the Rockefeller, Andrews and Flagler firm, only to be disbanded in 1870. And in its place came Standard Oil of Ohio. Applying his work ethic and genius, Rockefeller expanded Standard, making the largest shipper of oil and kerosene in the country. He would buy out the weak competition, improve their industry, employ his former competitors, and repeat the process. Rockefeller would have to merely show his books to his competition to demonstrate what they were up against, after which he would propose a reasonable offer. Many accepted. Those who declined his generous offer would fall victim to Standard Oil's morally absent price wars, where Standard would drop the prices of its oil so low to the point where it was the only oil selling it, and as a result the competition would go bankrupt. This loop of success culminated in Standard Oil owning 20,000 domestic wells, 4,000 miles of pipeline, 5,000 tank cars, and over 100,000 employees, as well as owning 90% of all US oil, or in translation, a monopoly. But one does not go on creating a monopoly without generating some envy amongst others. This envy first came in the form of various cartoons and news articles, with the sole purpose of tarnishing Rockefeller's image. It would further manifest itself in the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. More hate soon followed. Such were the ramblings of the misguided woman Ida Tarbell, who, upon failing to acknowledge the absence of morality in the nature of business, published the History of the Standard Oil Company in 1904. A collection of deliriously written gibberish aiming to destroy what others have worked so hard to build, and it worked. In 1911, only 7 years later, the Supreme Court, fearing the influence Rockefeller had over the government, found Standard Oil guilty of violating the Sherman Antitrust Act. And this punishment divided the company into 34 new ones. These included Conoco, Chevron, Exxon, Mobil, and so many others. Rockefeller was beaten but not defeated, still owning a sizable stock, over 25% to be exact, in each of these new companies, which he then sold, pumping up his wealth to the figures of $400 billion that we see today. Being born and raised a Baptist and following the teachings of preacher John Wesley, such as gain all you can, save all you can, and give all you can, he felt obliged to perform acts of philanthropy. Starting at the age of 16, he would donate 6% of his savings to charity, and as his riches grew, so did his givings. In 1884, he turned the Atlanta Baptist Female Seminary into Spelman College, naming it after his wife, Laura's family name. Rockefeller also gave $80 million to a small Baptist college in Illinois that would become the world-class institution of the University of Chicago in 1900. You're not you when you're broke. In 1903, he would create the General Education Board to promote education on all levels everywhere in the country, also providing major financial support for Yale, Harvard, Columbia, and others. His contribution to medicine would lead to the eventual eradication of the hookworm disease that plagued much of the American South, these being just a few to name. His contributions to science, education, and health were major financial ones that in the end summed up to $550 million. John D. Rockefeller would die of arteriosclerosis on May 23, 1957, at the age of 97. The best way to sum his life up would be with the poem he wrote at the age of 86. I was early taught to work as well as play. My life has been one long happy holiday. Full of work and full of play, I dropped a worry on the way. And God was good to me every day.